I am a temple who walks the earth. My womb is fertile for giving birth. I am a woman planted in truth. I grow my branches from sacred roots. You are the form of who you want to be. So come untethered, your soul is free. We're here to heal, we're here to thrive. We are a dream who's come alive. We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination for God's sake. A revelation for God's sake. An evolution for God's sake. An inspiration for God's sake. 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 For God's sake.
And so it is. Hello, Essence. This is Wild Soul Medicine Radio, and I'm Jody England. And I'm honored that you're joining me today for some more medicine for the rewilding of our souls as we return to the truth of who we really are. And as I've shared in past shows, I am both teacher and student of this work. And in the past couple weeks, I have very much been in student mode. And so today I'm going to be sharing with you the insights and lessons and awarenesses that I've been coming to over these last sometimes painful days. And, you know, I just want to start by saying, as always, I by no means have this figured out. I am still completely in the process of this, deeply, rawly in the process. I was actually crying my tears into the ground with my forehead on the floor at 2 minutes till the top of this particular hour. And, you know, and also, I don't intend for this show to be a downer or to scare all of us into submission, you know, and we're just going to be with the truthfulness of what is. And we're going to sit together here in this space on the edge, this trembling space of breakthrough and of shedding our old skins. We're sitting here together so that we may strengthen our resolve and discern what truth is available. So if you're on my list, you got the email. The subject of today's show is the Heretic's Path. And, you know, I find the term heretic really a curious word. It has so much energetic charge to and around it. And this really is a piece that came to me near the end of this struggle that I've been in. A friend said to me, you know, Jody, you are a heretic, and this is what your path will look like, where you are constantly alone on the edge, navigating and opening the doors for all of the rest of us. And when she said it, I had a mix of emotions. I had a sense of terror, and the sense of the past life being burned at the stake sort of resonance that I have with the term heretic. And I also had a flood of knowingness that that is exactly what I am. And then there was a sense of pride, of ownership, that of course that's what I am. And that's the beautiful thing about sisters, isn't it? That they can return us to ourselves even when we can't see it. And, I think it speaks to this thing I've been feeling with this show where it's, it has felt boundary pushing to me each and every time. And there is a way that I still continue to play it safe, or I shy away from saying the full truth. And so today I am committed to speaking the whole truth, and knowing that, as heretics often do, that may stir up some people who aren't yet ready to hear those truths, or who are really afraid of them. And what I want to say to that is that I see you, I love you, I am you. And, and these things scare me too, and that doesn't also make them less true. So what has been occurring for me is, I think many of you can relate. I am extremely competent and capable. I have had much traditional success in business, in the corporate world many years ago, and then in my various entrepreneurial enterprises between there and here. And I know in my heart that I am meant to reach many, many, many hundreds of thousands, I'm speaking the truth, millions of people. And the pattern for me has been, I see that vision, I get really scared of it. Then I see the vision again, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so I immediately begin striving to have that occur. And the striving has looked like lots of different things as I've evolved. It used to look like paying a lot of money to take a lot of classes, and then it looked like trying to, get into certain crowds or be invited into certain places. And, of course there were beautiful moments of evolution in that space where it was like, no, I don't need that. I'm going to just do my work. And I think that's, probably the most painful part of being the leader on the edge of, even if you're just on the edge of your own revolution, if you're not meant to lead millions of people, but you're just leading your own internal revolution, it's scary as hell because you don't know where it's going. It's not like you're watching a movie and you know it all turns out. So there are these terrifying moments where you're thinking like, what if I'm screwing this all up? What if I miss something important? What if, what if I'm not going to do it, And, so within those moments of like striving, I would find my essence and I would pull back into my own truth. And so I would stop striving. And then what that would typically look like is, taking on less clients. And sometimes those periods last for years, where I'm doing the genius of my work, but I'm not doing it for very many people. And so recently, in my newest iteration, I felt like I was, on the truest path that I knew, which is I am going to put my work out there in high alignment with other women who are in high alignment. And I'm going to embrace marketing my work in a way that feels true to my soul. And so I said yes to a couple opportunities. And, I think all of us do this, right? Is we put something on our vision board. So actually, I haven't yet taken it down from my vision board, but there was a telesummit with some women I really respected that occurred earlier this year. And I cut out the banner from that telesummit and I put it on my board, and I put myself next to those women. Like, yes, I should be on that panel, right? And so I proceeded to manifest some beautiful invitations, including many of those beautiful women. And one of those things was saying yes to this book about the path of the high priestess. And it's interesting in hindsight because when I look back, I can see how when it first came up, my soul was not a giant yes to it, but my ego was. My ego said, you should want to do this because look at the reach of all these women. You want your name to appear by their name. This would probably be really good for your list. because, people will read this book and then they'll think you're special because they think those people are special, right? So this is what we do. This is what the ego does for us. And in some ways, the book is, had a beautiful intention, which was to show people that the path of the high priestess is not always an easy one. And that feels true to me. So over the months, I struggled and struggled with what would I write? What would be in truth and alignment with my soul? What is the message that I can put in this compilation book that actually serves me and serves my purpose and serves the women who need what I do? So one other thing that I want to just say as I'm calling bullshit on everything is I don't know if you're familiar, if you're not, how those compilation books work is people pay to be in them, right? So they're basically a marketing strategy. So people pay to be part of a book, and then they all promote the book, and then they say, I'm the author of a best-selling book, right? So it, in one way, is there something wrong with that? I don't know. I think really one of the lessons I want to say today is there is no right or wrong. So how I want you to listen to what my words is not that I have figured this out and those women haven't, or that you shouldn't read that book or any of those things, right? In fact, I would encourage you to stay in the inquiry, so that there might even be things that I'm saying that are still in trigger or still in story. And even if they're not, I want you to be resonating with the truth for yourself. But as a heretic, as I was embracing the words, even the whole word of heretic, like what does this mean if I'm embracing this for myself? I looked up the definition, and the word heretic comes from the Greek word heretikos, which means able to choose. Able to choose. And what I've become very clear about this week is that the heart of my purpose on this planet is to bring freedom and truth. There is no egoic place outside of that. It's freedom and truth. And so there is no right and wrong, because that keeps us from the ability to choose, right? And as soon as we believe there is a right and a wrong, we immediately have lost our freedom, right? Because we're actually sinking to a consciousness level below truth when we do that, all right? So back to where I was with the story. So there's this compilation book, and people pay to be part of it. And so you should just know that, it's really difficult when you're on the creation side of work like that to keep it pure, to keep the message pure, right? And I think that's really evident in all of our work right now is many of the people that I'm graced to know are doing this deep healing work on the planet, and they suck at marketing, right? And many of the people who look like online superstars, who have big followings and make big money and have a big list, are doing so because they're great at marketing, and many of them suck at soulful, deep work. Right? Because, in a certain way, those two pieces of work don't often go together. This is one of the troublesome things about the shift in the paradigm, as I see it, is how do we disseminate cutting-edge quality work in a way that is in truth and alignment? How do we reach vast numbers of people? Or is it even important to reach vast numbers of people? Because the more people you reach, the more potential for your work to become diluted or to stop seeing people as souls and start seeing them as numbers and commodities. And so it's this interesting conundrum, right? So here I am in this High Priestess book, agonizing about what my chapter will be. And to fully own this, I am certain that one of the pieces of my soul path is I am an irreverent high priestess. It is in my video on my website. And it is true for me. I have visited my irreverent high priestess in my soul sanctuary, and I know that she lives. And so it made perfect sense to be in alignment with this high priestess book, right? However, as with anything, once you start to buy into a paradigm, the paradigm immediately starts to lose its authenticity. It starts to lose its freedom, right? So right when we break through an old paradigm into the new one, there's like this breath of fresh air. There's this moment of freedom. When high priestess started to be talked about, when people began to reclaim the idea of priestess, in the last 10, 15 years, I think even more recently in these last 5 or 10 years, there was like a minute where that was pure and true, and it was what was being called forward. And then immediately people started jumping on the bandwagon of, oh, if I'm a high priestess, that means I'm something. That means I'm figured out. That means I'm high. I'm higher than you. And immediately it began to lose its potency. And, and that's just what happens. It has nothing to do with the women in this particular book. And it's not to say that all women calling themselves high priestesses are not high priestesses, right? That's what's important about this discernment process, is that it's ongoing. It's ongoing. And it is, it's something that we each must take on, right? And, another example of that would be like, of course, since I've come forward with my new website with the beautiful Black Frisian, all of a sudden I'm drawing into my space, right? Lots of people who also have branding, including horses. And I recently had a woman who is a friend of mine, who's in some of her shit right now, who said to me, like, oh, you're just copying all these women who have these horses on their website. And it was really interesting because, there was the part of me, really my egoic part, responded in that moment of like, oh, am I not unique? Am I not original? Did I do something out of alignment? And so so what I want you to get is it's not about the horse or not the horse or, any of those things. It's what is true for each individual soul. And that's why I've had so much problem with people who are selling these, get rich quick and, 6-figure business or die and, 7 weeks to your best self and, all of that one size fits all stuff, because it's so external and it's so not connected to truth and to essence and to individuality, which is where truth lives. And so what I make of things like lots of people having horses and their branding at this point is some of them are copying other people, right? And in the past, I certainly did things like that. When I was coming forward, I would look at people who I thought were successful, and then I would try to model what they were doing with my own version, right? So, oh, she's got a headshot that kind of looks like this, then I'm going to go get that headshot. And then, oh, she's got some sassy font, so I'm going to get a scripty sassy font, right? You've done that. And we see people who do it all the time. And we see people who sell the ability to do that, right? Like, do what I do, and then you'll be like me, And also, on the Heretic's path, it's about discerning what is true for you and then letting everything else fall away. So what is true for me is that I have a connection with that particular Black Frisian horse. It would actually feel less in alignment for me to have that horse as my branding than so a thought just came through and I was going to censor it. There's actually a particular person who has a lot of fame right now, who recently came out with a Black Frisian horse and some branding that looked really familiar to mine. And she knows who I am. I don't actually know if she had hers first or if I had mine first. And it doesn't actually matter, right? Because that would be just an external egoic thing about who's more right and who has more entitlement, to those words or those images or that, whatever you would want to call that. But what I am firmly rooted in is that my essence is what I'm committed to, and my soul path is what I'm committed to. And so I actually don't compare myself to other people's stuff, and I don't look at other people's stuff for the most part. And, and I highly suggest that if you're interested in really getting acquainted with your own soul, you have to do it from the inside out. And that likely means that you're going to need to stop paying for a bunch of courses that tell you how you should do things and start internally excavating what your own truth actually is. And so as I've been doing that for myself, I have had these really amazing insights. And just to share with you kind of what it feels like when you're in that spin of trying to figure out what is true and you're blindly wandering around in the dark room. For me, it looked like, why am I procrastinating on this stupid chapter? Let me clear some energy. Okay, let me see if there's something energetically out of alignment with the container, and can I fix that? Okay, wait, can I hold an intention for this group that would pull it forward? All right, let me move out of all of that. Let me go back to source. Source, please tell me what I need to write here, right? It looked like being up in the middle of the night, writing lots of things that didn't make sense. I'm going to be sharing some of those on my blog, by the way. Some beautiful, powerful writings came forward that were clearly not the chapter, but were healing in and of themselves. So all of the stuff that was occurring in the process was important, and it felt very much like pain and struggle and like being on fire. And also, I think it took longer than it needed to because my ego was still very invested in this working out, right? So, I had ponied up the energetic exchange of the money to be in the book. I had gotten a yes to being accepted by this, quote, powerful community of women. And I had this payoff, right? Like, well, I need this. I probably need this for my business. So let me just see what part I want to share next. Yeah. So one of the pivotal things that happened is I got some beautiful coaching from actually a woman in the book container who said, I feel like your chapter needs to be written. Actually, she said, I feel like what your chapter is about is something that's occurring for you right now, right? That you actually aren't all the way processed through, which was completely right on. I told you, these are, priestessy women. They're good. And she said, I also think your chapter needs to be written by medicine woman, right? So if you've been following the show, you know a little bit about medicine woman. If you haven't been following the show, medicine woman is a past life that I had as a medicine woman who was killed, or she was wounded at Wounded Knee. Most of her tribe was killed at Wounded Knee. And she is actually still at this point kind of a split from me. So she lives in me, she speaks to me, she guides me, and she is me. So it's sort of this bizarre relationship. And I've had a really contentious relationship with her because I consider myself, a practical woman. And, I'm learning to own these gifts of channeling and, connection with the other side and things like that. And so people close to me know what an integral part of my life she is. And I'm just beginning to share that outside of myself. So what ended up happening is I sat down to write my chapter, and I invited Medicine Woman to come forward and invited her to actually write the chapter, which was extremely scary and edgy for me, given that I barely let her speak to me, let alone to speak through me. And So I'm going to share with you just a little bit of what she shared, and then I'll post the full writing on my blog so you can read the rest if you're interested. But it kind of came out like the Conversations with God, if you've read that, where I'm sitting there with my hands on the keyboard and I was asking her, I would ask her a question. And then I just open up and she comes through. And so she just was, telling me the answers. So I asked her, what do you think is the path of the high priestess, right? Because this is what I was supposed to be writing about. And she said, I don't see no path. I don't see no high priestesses. And I said, really? These women are super powerful. They're leading movements. They're evolving consciousness. Isn't that what a high priestess is? Right? Because I had done all this research on the intellectual, piece and the energetic about what high priestesses were. And a medicine woman said to me, I don't know what a high priestess is. And she laughed. And she said, they look like a bunch of scared little girls to me. Now, when she said that, I got scared, right? Because I'm already thinking, okay, people are going to think this is crazy. They're going to think I'm making this up. They're going to think I'm saying this, that I'm saying this to them. I certainly couldn't post this or show this to the women in the book, and it can't actually go in the book, right? And what I want to be clear about is I was in the group of high priestesses, right? Medicine woman was talking to me. She was talking to me just as much as she was talking about the container and the women in it. So I said to her, that's mean. And she said, that's truth. I said, is there anything wrong with sharing wisdom with others that might help them to evolve? And medicine woman said, it depends on what you mean by truth. There is very little truth to be shared. Truth is slippery. It hides behind stories and labels. It waits quietly for you to stop talking and to come find it. Truth is the wind. Truth is the sun and the sky. Truth is your feet on the ground. Truth is everywhere and nowhere. It isn't owned by anyone. As soon as someone tries to own the truth, it isn't the truth anymore. If you say truth enough, it isn't even truth anymore. Truth, 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 truth. It becomes a meaningless sound, some letters strung together that could mean anything. I said to her, is there any wisdom that can be shared then? Is there any benefit to writing a book? And she said, people tend to find their wisdom when and where they choose to. It's really up to them whether they find what you say wise or useful. As soon as you start thinking that what you have to say is wise, you stop being wise and start being a fool. I said to her, what if it was a book about medicine women? Would that have more resonance for you? And she said, I've met plenty of medicine women who were full of shit too. And so the interview went on, and I'll share that on my blog. But the interview went on with her really schooling me in this idea of power, this idea that has been the core of my own work about claiming your personal power and radical self-responsibility, and her calling me out, basically saying you're obsessed with power and status and ego, and you want people to follow you, and you want to have a big following, and you need to focus on you. You need to do what you're here to do and not worry if it's big. If it reaches one person, that's hard enough to do, right? And it's not really about who you reach. It's, are you on purpose? Are you actualized as a soul? That was the medicine she had for me. And I got to tell you, it was earth-shaking at the time. It still is. It still is, honestly, because I don't know what my message is outside of that, And And so here we are walking around in the dark again. And she showed me that the message outside of that is love. The message outside of that is heart. And of course, that's my growing edge. You know, it's a lot easier for me to be in my head than in my heart. And yet that is this commitment that I've made to untaming myself and to untaming those who are on the same path so that we might all find our freedom and truth together. So I wrestled with that chapter for another few weeks, not sharing it with anyone in the group. Deciding if it would just die on my computer or if I would do anything with it. And then I had several other, of course, synchronicities show up in my life because that's what happens when you call it in. You know, when you commit to finding the purpose of your soul, it's going to be shown to you in so many ways. And so for me, it came in a lot of conflict, some painful pieces and relationships that I was in, other places that were not working in my life that came to a head. And so I finally ended up in a beautiful healing session with my friend, Sway Spilkin, who will be a guest on this show sometime soon. She's a wise, wise medicine woman and a deep soul sister of mine. And we went in to look at what is this thing that needs healed in me in order to come into alignment, right, with all of this pain. And of course, we immediately went right to Medicine Woman. And this is a scene that I've seen with her many times where I see her standing on the battlefield at Wounded Knee with all of her tribe laying dead or dying around her, laying with the blood on the ground and herself wounded. And every time I have visited that before, it's filled with so much pain that I can't stay there very long, you know. And I've done some healing around it and with her. And so there we were again. And I got to tell you, you know, even as I talk about this, I totally get the crazy soundingness of it. It's crazy to me every single time it happens, and it's so fucking real. I cannot deny that it is true, right? It's one of those heretic things. Like, I talk to a medicine woman. I don't care if you get it or you believe it. It is what it is. So here we are. We're really working with these deep past life karmic pieces, and you know, so we cleared a lot, and it was amazing. And as we looked at what was the point of all of that, you know, what was the point of that lifetime and all of that pain and grief and suffering? And what she said to me is, Medicine Woman said to me, this is what happens when you're really convinced you're right. Right? Because the white men were really convinced that they were right, that they should have the land, that they owned it, that, you know, that power was the best way. And that's where it ended, you know, it ended in bloodshed and carnage. And actually Medicine Woman had spoken to me about that in the chapter. I had asked her about Wounded Knee and what she thought she should have done differently. And she, had spoken to that whole thing of power, but I only got it at a certain cognitive level. Here I got it on a visceral, cellular level. And as we finished up the karmic pattern with my tribe, who, you know, I've carried in my body and in my lungs and in my energy space, and we finally were able to release them from my space, and we were releasing them because they needed me to get that they incarnated with me at that time so that I could learn that lesson, so that I could come to this lifetime. And share that message. And share the message that it's not about right and wrong. It's about love. It's about truth. It's about souls and essence. Yeah. And so when your ego is in charge, you're going to do some stuff, you're going to make some decisions that aren't in alignment with your soul. And you can forgive yourself for that. But it is painful. At least it is for mine. And so, as I got really clear about my message and my point, what I realized is the reason there was so much resistance in me around the book is because the book was not in alignment. I can't participate in the prostitution of the paradigm of the high priestess. I can't pretend like a message that's really about marketing is actually about serving you. And I can simultaneously hold that for myself without judgment for those who do it. And I can also say that I can't promise I wouldn't do something like that in the future when I get scared or when I lose my way or when I think I need something that I am disconnected from already having in myself. And all we can really do is keep returning to truth, to course correct ourselves, and to course correct each other so that we can all navigate our way toward this expansion. Why this moves me so much is not because I'm in pain. Actually, I feel really clear and free right now. Why I feel emotional is because there's so much grace here. And there's grace for you too. And it doesn't have to be hard. You'll probably make it hard because I did. And your ego's not going to go down without a fight, most likely. And also, it doesn't have to be painful. You can just move into the match with what is in alignment. And that's what I did. I called the women who I respect so deeply, who were gracious enough to invite me into the project. And I just let them lovingly know that it's not on message for me anymore as I've evolved into this newer truth. It was in alignment and now it isn't. And that's just what is. I simultaneously stepped out of a High Priestess Telesummit that I was part of with many of those same women and many others that, again, probably would be very good for my business if my business is about numbers and money and things. And it feels really, really good. It feels good to be free. It feels good to be aligned with my soul. I am so grateful to have Medicine Woman. I'm learning to really trust her and make friends with her. One of my other really brilliant friends said to me this week, as I look at it energetically, it's like Medicine Woman is dragging you by your hair toward your purpose. And she's determined that you're going to get there. And I said, I know, I feel like that's what's happening. And I'm trying to get up on my feet and follow her so she does not have to drag me by my hair anymore because it's very fucking painful. So if you're experiencing that level of struggle in your life, if you're wondering why things aren't working, if you are feeling as if something is dragging you by your hair towards something that you are resisting, it may be time to stop and take a look, to see if what you're up to is really in alignment, to see where you can open to more truth and freedom for yourself. And it's tricky because it doesn't mean quitting things necessarily. It doesn't mean stepping out of things or destroying your life or making your business have to not be something that you think it should be, right? What it really means is letting go of all of those egoic constructs, right? So it's not about settling for a smaller business. It's about being unattached to the size of my business, right? It's like letting go of my business, period, and really just actually surrendering to the business of being me. And when I am me, I will do some things. And it's medicine woman told me, when you are you, you will do some things and some people will follow and some people won't. And it's not actually about that, right? And so that is the invitation. The invitation is, are you willing to be a heretic in your own life? Are you willing to take a stand, to not conform to your established attitudes and doctrines, to the principles that may have run your life in the past? It takes courage. It takes messiness. It takes being on fire, right? And one of my favorite books of all time is Sarah Beek's book, Red, Hot, and Holy. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. She is absolutely a heretic on fire. And, when I first read her book, I got so many insights. And she talks about this process, right? This process of really stepping into the truth. And for her, it looked like some similar things. Like she had a documentary ready to produce that she let go of. It looked like she had a book publisher and she let go of her whole book project, which is how she makes a living, right? So that was even bigger than what I've just done. I think she also broke up with her boyfriend. She did everything, right? And she talks about, this path of burning and growing and burning and growing. And when I read it, I thought, okay, well, maybe that has to happen, but I'm going to try to do it a lot more gently. I'm going to do it where I don't have to destroy my whole life because I have this amazing husband and I have children and, I have this gorgeous home and, so I don't know if I want to burn everything down. And it was so funny because I really had then put that out of my mind. And it just occurred to me this morning as I was thinking about the radio show today, this is exactly what Sarah Beek was talking about, right? Except for it's my version of it. So I want to be clear that I'm not promoting that you need to go jack up your life, right, to copy Jody so that you can get on purpose. It's what I'm inviting you to is taking this unapologetic look at what you are up to and why you are up to it. And if you're not connected to your soul with it, you've got to shift because otherwise you're just going through the motions and it doesn't mean anything anyway, right? So that's what I have to share with you. And I feel like it would serve us to actually have some voices in this space. I don't know what your voices want to say, but if you want to call and share something, your commitment to your own heretical path, your insight or awareness, your question that you would like me to look at with you. I don't know, whatever would serve this space. I'm interested in doing that. So the call-in number is 937-552-2747, 937-552-2747 if you'd like to share something with our tribe of listeners. Yeah. So, as we wait for those calls to filter through, what I would like to leave you with is I'd like to leave you with a feeling of optimism, right? So, of course, I drew a card before the show, and I was surprised to draw the fire prince. And in what it was saying is like, when you get in alignment with what you're supposed to do, miracles will happen. And you can trust that and you can rest in it. And so proceed with optimism. And I have to tell you, I deeply feel that in my soul. There is some grief here, right? There's a little grief about, potentially upsetting these women who I highly respect and want to journey with in other ways. And, there's some grief at this idea of like what I thought it would look like. But mostly I feel peaceful. I feel good. I feel solid. And I feel very optimistic about what the future looks like from here. So we have a caller, and I'm going to go ahead and receive that. Hi, is this Deborah?
Yes.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. What would you like to share with us?
Oh, am I on? I was just, okay.
You're actually live.
I just want to say that thank you so much for saying what has been in my soul for years. And I've been going against everybody else's idea of what I'm supposed to be doing in my life. And why don't you have a job? And why don't you, so what are you doing these days? And how are you making any money? And I'm just like, I can't even tell you, except for I know that I have just keep turning into, I'm going where I'm supposed to go. I know I'm going where I'm supposed to go. And by the way, one of the miracles that came through is that I got a text a few weeks back from Bob, and I know you know the story, but saying that he supports me to move my daughter into the new house. So all of that has proceeded. But it's still difficult. Nothing's easy. I can't get the contract and the buyer, and all of these things are, can you fix the roof, and can you do this, and can you fix the sewer? And I just laughed. I thought, from the tip of my roof to underneath my house in the sewer pipe, I'm still working on this fucking, excuse my language, old house I need to get out of. Anyway, I'm just feeling like there's so many messages in every single baby cardinal that comes and visits me every day on my deck. I don't know what it is, but I don't know where I'm going, and it is the most terrifying thing to be a single person and not know where my livelihood is, and not knowing how to tell people who I am and what I can do for them if I don't even know what that is. So I just wanted to tell you that I'm lost in the questions. Lost.
I feel you. And, what I was getting as you were speaking, Deborah, is the feeling is of being lost. And yet, as I look at it energetically, you are completely on the path. You're actually, do you know the whirling dervishes, right? There's actually, for those of you who don't know, there's a religious sect of monks that do this. They're called the whirling dervishes, and they twirl and a way of getting into like a trance state, and they're literally like unwinding, right? And I think that, for most of us, it feels like being lost because our mind is not in the driver's seat, right? And that's the way we're used to navigating. So when that happens, our mind's in the background saying, you're crazy, you are screwing this up, like you are lost, you better get back on track, right? And when I look at you energetically, it looks like you are right on track. You are whirling and unwinding and untaming, and it is so beautiful. So beautiful.
It's so messy, and nobody understands. And I feel like the only people that honor what I'm going through or kind of there's just no support system here. And that's the part that I think is the hardest. I feel very alone in my knowing that I'm getting to where I'm going to totally be able to just to hold the container for other women to do their exploration, but I don't know how to get there. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know.
Yeah.
So in the meantime, it's like this house has to sell because this is where I need to pay back the loans I've been living on the last 2 years.
Yeah. So what I want to say to you is that your community is here. You know, I think this may be the community of where we come together. Yeah, the community of heretics. Thank you for saying it. It's like, I don't want to overuse it. Then we'll become a paradigm of heretics. But
I love
it. But this is where we commit to keep stirring it up, and also where we hold each other when we feel lost, to remind each other we aren't actually lost, right? We are doing it. We're on it. And it's not about if anybody else gets it. It's not even really about if you get it. It's like when you stop trying to get it is when you get it, you know? And that's the dervish part of it.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful. And I did a video this morning for my little tiny tribe on talk about numbers. I'm never going to look at those frickin' Facebook, how many likes I got anyway. But I did it on who's driving your life. Who's driving?
Nice.
And I didn't even realize it. It's my mind. That's it. Oh, that's so beautiful. I'll copy you on it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. I just needed to hear that I'm not alone, but I felt very much the pain that you've been feeling, the struggle, the fighting against what is just naturally happening. And if I let it unfold, every time I laugh and let something just be, these crazy buyers want all this stuff done, fine, who cares? It's only money. And then it all resolves.
Mm-hmm.
So
Beautiful.
I know that.
All right, so we'll just take a minute. And I'll take just a minute to pop through. See if we have some technical things happening. I know we have a few callers waiting, so we'll be with you momentarily to share your medicine with our group. Centered, just so you know, for those of you who are considering sharing some truth and wondering if it will blow everything up. All right. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so our next caller is Grace. Hello, Grace.
Hi, Jody. This is Grace.
Mm-hmm. Welcome.
It's wonderful to talk to you again.
You too.
And in this place.
Yes.
I wanted to first thank you so much for this call, and actually all your calls. But because today is today, this call especially. And I also wanted to share with you, whenever you bring up medicine woman, I don't know why. Well, as you can hear, so much emotion comes up. And I don't know what that is. Is it what you're sharing and what I experience is an authenticity that I don't experience very much around. And I want to say, without saying too much, that just to hear you talk a little bit about the High Priestess, I'll call it movement, was really helpful for me, because my experience in some groups with high-level leaders, I'll say, or coaches, for some reason, even though I wanted to make it work, but for some reason it didn't for me. And not so long ago, a woman I've been working with for quite some time, a couple of years, is an energy medicine practitioner and much more. She and somebody else who is intuitive here in town. That it's just amazing. They both have said, look, no more courses. No more courses. You are your own teacher. You are the teacher. So I hear that, and my ego gets all kind of excited, and then I kind of go, what? So that's one thing. And then the other thing is that a little bit of a story, but not much, because I know is that one of the key events in my life was my brother's death. And what my story has been about it was being in the ICU at his bedside and feeling this angst, like I knew there was a way to connect with him, but I didn't know how. It's like, what is it? What is it? What is it? And then I realized that it's a bigger story. It's more like, how do I connect with spirit? What is it? What is it? What is it? Why can't I feel my guides? Why can't I see them? Why can't I hear them? And then recently a medical practitioner suggested that I go back to that scene and just be there and wait. And I thought, oh my gosh, how wise that was to say, because I'd never thought of that before. And I use that also as a way to, at this late date in my life, it seems, to learn, and it's hard though for me, to just be and trust that something will come through. Mm-hmm. And that's what I feel is key for me right now. And I also had a blood test done, not a allopathic one, a different alternate practitioner.
Grace.
And what I learned was what it's showing,
Hey,
what's
Grace.
in my blood or not in my blood, I'm completely depleted.
Grace, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I'm just going to pause you. I'm going to pause you because Medicine Woman has something to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I was checking with her when you started talking, and I felt her. She pulled right forward when you started talking.
Yeah, I mean, I can feel her. I can yeah.
Yeah, she was crooking her finger at you, right, to come closer.
Okay.
And so as you were talking, so this is one of the things she says to me a lot, is that I don't listen. That it's like I have sand in my ears because she's telling me stuff all the time and I'm talking over it or moving around it. And then I just watched you do the same thing, right? So that you were talking and the energy was sort of leaking, and she sat back and she looked just like she looks when I do it. She looked kind of disgusted, like
arms folded and kind of eyebrows up,
right,
waiting.
Yeah. So she, so I was just asking her what she has for you, and it's a message from her to you. I don't know what it is, but she's going to whisper it in your ear. All right. So you can just be still. And then she's going to give you what she has to give you. All right? You up for that?
Yes. Did you say it's not coming through your voice?
Yeah, I'm not going to actually say it. I'm just going to move out of the way, and she's going to whisper it right in your ear.
Okay.
All right? So see if you can turn your mind off and not try to make sense of it.
Okay.
There you go.
My mind quickly comes in, or even over what she said, and says, "You just made this up." Because Native Americans don't talk like this. Mm-hmm. What she said was, "You are the keeper of the flame." Jody, I think I made it up. But
yeah, so here's
what if that is what she said? Then it's like, oh, okay, let's be still and listen what that means.
Yeah. So how about this? I'm going to have you be still and listen rather than talking through it, and just receive, so I don't think it's going to happen here, and it's not about performing it. Yeah. Right. Okay. And she's confident that she transmitted what she wanted to transmit. So.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So be with that.
Okay. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you.
And again, I love you. You're a sister. I can feel it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, honey. of course, Grace is who would call, right? There's so much grace here. And then Grace is who calls. And Deborah, our first caller, actually was part of a high priestess course that I taught. So many synchronicities being pulled together here. So I feel like there is one more caller. And I know we're at the top of the hour, but hey, we're heretics. So we're just going to do what we do. So Viv, let's put through one more caller for today. And we'll receive that medicine before we move on. Isn't it cute how our egos come forward? So we think we get in these battles with the ego, okay, I'm not going to do ego. And then I'm going to, I'm going to call in and I'm going to listen. And then, you get your medicine and then you talk through it. And then and then everybody who's listening is like, well, I want medicine woman to say something to me, which is all ego, right? So yeah, we'll just be in our presence, just feeling whatever there is there for us to receive. Okay. So we have Dana calling in. Hi, Dana.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. What would you like to share with us today?
First of all, I just want to thank you so much. I felt like you were talking to me. First, I had to laugh because I just did partake in a very similar venture, although when I tapped in, it is in alignment with myself. Getting on your call and listening to you, I was like, oh no, what is she going to say? But I just feel like you just gave me such permission, and I get emotional, but to just be myself. I mean, you know me very well. I'm trying to fit into some certain paradigm or doing it like someone else or trying to figure out the perfect label or name for something because that's what works. And I don't know. I mean, it's stuff I've heard before, not obviously in the way that you have shared it today, but it was just beautiful. And realizing as well that I am a bit of a heretic as well. And I think I just, for some reason, was always trying to fit into something. But if I tap into my truth, everything even that you were sharing, even, maybe not specifically to High Priestess, but like in that similar sense, I am my own truth. And that's all I need to just consistently tap into. And I don't know, it was just this huge aha moment and this huge, just weight that lifted off my shoulders. And so I just want to thank you and say I love you for sharing this today.
Thank you. Thank you. And it feels beautiful to receive the reflection that it means something to you. And just to reflect, my heart and my system feels so happy and settled hearing you talk about your truth being you, right? Like I can trust that. And then I saw this whole big vision of when we're all being our own color of crayon in the box, like how beautiful and scrumptious that is versus if you open a box and we're all, the same color and we're doing the same thing and we're following the same blueprint. And really that is that connection with our own truth is the thing that brings the level of peace that does translate into world peace, right? When you're in this space, there is no conflict because there is no right and wrong. There's no one going to massacre anyone else or take their oil or rape their land or any of those external things because that all happens when we're disconnected from who we really are. So, yes.
Yeah, and I feel like I've just been in such a struggle lately. Everything you were talking about, marketing and everything, it's just blah. I just have such a hard time with it. And you take all these classes or courses or whatnot and try to follow this specific way, quote unquote, and it just doesn't feel authentic to me. So it's really, this has just been more of the push to like find my own way. What is my own way? How do I want to present in the world? How do I want to share my gifts, be able to share my gifts? Because I can't do that unless I'm obviously not obviously, but in my truth and expressing me rather than trying to just push. And so it just, as much as it feels like a little bit of a struggle in a sense to be like, okay, well, who is that? Because of my what's the word?
Soul path.
My tendency to not trust, but it's just really putting the emphasis on me locating her, peeling away more of those layers to find her.
Yes. Beautiful. And I just want to say, because I think I can feel some people, because the mind is tricky, right? So we hear Dana and Jody talking about, not marketing and, all of the hollowness of that. And so we're like, yeah, so I shouldn't market myself. And it's not about that either, because there's a way that we can not market ourselves and be hiding out too. And I feel that going forward, this community is one where we will be looking at how do we get our big work out into the world in a way that's authentic and easy and graceful and in alignment with our soul. And prior to that, we have to be very anchored in who and what our soul is. We have to be in relationship with our soul before we start talking about how to market it, right? I'm pretty sure marketing isn't even going to be the term, right? But how do we express it and like allow people to align with it? It feels more like that. So, so I honor you. I appreciate you showing up to do this work. And, if I might just add, because I know Dana and her soul path is one where being connected to who she is the whole unraveling of it, right? So she's up against her biggest challenge. And it just makes my heart so happy that you are that stand. And it's like us courageous women who are doing this and who are helping each other hold the resolve of it will then start to create the ripple of, the next, layer of people who do it. And then our men coming on board and our children seeing it. And, so it's big time work here at the beginning because it feels like we're doing it alone because we're all doing it in our own little pockets by ourselves. But I hereby open the doors to this community of heretics, of people who are lost, who are finding themselves, people whose ego are running the show and who don't want their ego running the show. And anyone who's up to this conversation, you do not have to figure this out to be in the conversation. And that is really my highest intention, is that we start to normalize being both teacher and student, because when we forget that we're also always the student, that's when we lose ourselves in the bullshit of being high anything or, being the leader. And it's really about all of us staying humble and staying in the inquiry and standing shoulder to shoulder. So thank you. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, essences. So that will wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for witnessing my journey, for being on your own journey that has called you into this space with me. I would love to continue this conversation of us supporting one another over in the tribe, which is at facebook.com/groups/Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe. Facebook.com/groups/Wild Soul Medicine Radio Tribe.com. If you want to read the rest of my interview with Medicine Woman, you can do so at my blog, which is at untamedyou.com, and then click on Musings. I do not have it posted yet. I just decided that I would do that. So, give us an hour or so and we'll have that up for you as well. And we will look forward to continuing the inquiry and following the winding, unfurling path together again next Wednesday. Until then, bye everyone.
We light a candle, our hearts awake. Illumination, for God's sake. A revelation, for God's sake. An inspiration, for God's sake. Illumination, for God's sake. For God's sake. For God's sake. For God.